What does it take to become a licensed plumber in the state of Georgia? Hi, my name is Peter. I'm a second-generation licensed master plumber in the state of Georgia. I've been in the industry for about 25 years now, and today I'm going to teach you how to begin your apprenticeship all the way through officially becoming a licensed plumber in the state of Georgia. We're going to talk about legal requirements that you need to know about, some best practices, and I'll even share with you one tip that I used that helped me to pass both my journeyman and my master plumber exam on the first time. Let's get started. If you're interested in becoming a plumber here in Georgia, the first thing you should know is that it is required by law that you hold your own plumbing license. Georgia Code Title 43, Chapter 14, Section B makes it very clear that anyone performing plumbing work on another's home ought to have at minimum a journeyman plumbing license or be under the direct supervision of a licensed journeyman or master plumber. There are 3 different licenses that a plumber may hold. The first is a journeyman license. This license allows you to perform any plumbing work in the state of Georgia under the indirect supervision of a licensed master plumber. If your goal is to work for another plumbing company, this is the only license that you need to worry about attaining. The second license is a Master Class 1. The Master Class 1 allows you to contract and perform your own residential plumbing work without the direct or indirect supervision of another. And finally, we have Master Class 2. The Master Class 2 license allows the individual to not only contract and perform their own residential plumbing work, but their own work in larger commercial spaces, such as shopping malls, supermarkets, and high-rises. In this video, we'll be focusing on how to earn your journeyman plumbing license. There are a few criteria that you will need to first meet in order to be eligible to apply for the journeyman examination. The first is that you must be at least 18 years old. The second is that you should have either a high school diploma or a GED, and the third is that you must have a minimum of 3 years work experience in the field. This 3 years experience is typically done as an apprenticeship program. It's a great way to get paid while you learn the trade and receive hands-on, direct training in the work that you are looking to perform. In order to begin your apprenticeship, simply reach out to various plumbing companies in the area. The larger companies tend to have more apprenticeship slots available, but some mid-sized and smaller companies will be offering those positions as well. Call around, see who's hiring for an apprentice, and go for it. I will be posting a video in the near future explaining what a typical apprenticeship program may look like. If you're interested in seeing that video, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified when it comes out. Once you've completed your apprenticeship, you'll want to go online and print out the application form to take your journeyman examination. I'll put the link to that application in the description. After you fill out the application, you will need to sign it, have it notarized, and send it in with the application fee, a background check performed by your local law agency, as well as a note of reference from 3 different licensed plumbers, one of which being a licensed master. These references should be attesting to your skills and time in the trade, and they'll be vouching that they believe you are eligible to take the journeyman examination. Once you've received the good news that you've been accepted to take the examination, you'll want to go ahead and schedule that exam. There are multiple time windows throughout the year where the exam is performed, so go ahead and pick the one that works best for you. The exam itself is multiple choice style, and it is a closed book examination. You should expect to find technical questions, questions on codes, mathematics, best installation practices, as well as properties of water. Keep in mind that the examination is going to be based on minimum standards. For instance, you may find a question such as this one. What is the minimum size pipe diameter you may use for a vent pipe? Is it A, 2 inches, B, 1.5 inches, C, 1.25 inches, or D, 4 inches? I'll give you a moment to decide. Did you answer B, 1.5 inches? Well, you would unfortunately be wrong. 1.5 inches is what most of us will use as our minimum pipe size. In many areas, it's much easier to get a hold of 1.5 inch piping, so that's what we do on the job. However, The actual minimum allowed size piping for a vent is 1.25 inches, and this would be the correct answer on this particular question. Remember, the test does not care about how you do things. The test is concerned about making sure you know the minimum standards. Going above and beyond the minimum standards where you can when you're actually performing the work in the field is very commendable and is well worth doing. Just remember that that's not what the test is going to be based on. That's not what the test is going to be based on. Now, there are a few essential study tools that you should have. The first one being the code book. As of the time of this video, Georgia is currently on the 2018 International Plumbing Code. You'll want to get a hold of this code book. Georgia also uses the 2018 International Fuel Gas Code. You'll want to read through both of these books frequently. However, before you begin reading through the code books, you will also want to go online and print out a copy of the Georgia amendments to the International Plumbing Code and the International Fuel Gas Code. I keep mine in a 3-ring notebook. I'll post a link in the description to where you can get a hold of these amendments. With your amendments printed out and put in your 3-ring notebook, you'll want to slowly go through each amendment at a time and find where that amendment corresponds in the book. The Georgia amendments will be making changes to the codes you'll be reading, so you want to make sure you are notating these changes so that you are reading and studying what will be on the actual examination and what is applicable code for us here in Georgia. Some of these changes may actually come as a relief to you. For instance, the very first change that you will find in the plumbing code is that Georgia says to delete the entirety of Chapter 1, Scope and Administration, with no substitution. This is one less chapter that you have to read. In other cases, Georgia will add codes that were not already there. In Chapter 2, where we have various definitions, Georgia adds a number of different terms that we need to know as plumbers. In other situations, the Georgia amendments will actually revise an existing code to change its meaning or its rules. For example, Code 504.6, which is pertaining to water heater relief lines, actually allows under the Georgia amendments for the relief line to go upwards, provided we meet the criteria laid out within the revised code. As you go through the amendments, you'll want to notate in the code books where these changes are. You can do this in whichever manner you prefer. I like to draw an X over any code which is being deleted without substitution. I'll draw a plus icon where there is an additional code being added by the amendments, and I will circle any code which is being modified. This way, I can now read through my code book and only reference the amendments when I see there is a need to do so. This also helps to make sure I am not studying a code that Georgia has done away with or has changed, and therefore I'm studying the inaccurate code for our jurisdiction. I'm about to share with you the #1 tip that I used that I attribute a lot of my success in being able to pass both my journeyman and my master's exam on the first time. Before we get started on that, I would like to ask you if you've gotten any value out of this video to consider leaving a like. It really does help the channel out and I would appreciate it greatly. Now, moving on to that tip. The most helpful study tool that I used were my homemade flashcards. I made flashcards covering every topic that I was less than familiar with. The way I recommend you go about this is as you read your code books, as you practice mathematical formulas, as you learn the properties of water, anything that you don't already go, oh yeah, this is obvious, I know this, go ahead and write a flashcard on it. These could be true or false flashcards, such as the discharge piping serving a pressure relief valve, temperature relief valve, or combination thereof may be trapped, true or false. The correct answer, according to code, is true, per Amendment 504.6, number 7. Or you may have cards that leave a blank, such as silcocks, hose bibs, wall hydrants, and other openings with a hose connection shall be protected by a, correct answer being vacuum breaker. I recommend creating a flashcard every single time you come across something that you feel may be on the exam that you are less than confident you'll pass. This will add up to be a lot of flashcards. I had nearly 2,000 flashcards by the time I was done preparing all of mine, and you will not remember these all if you go through them on one sitting. So what I recommend is split your flashcards into sets of 50. From there, divide the 50 into sets of 10. Now go through the first set of 10, one card at a time, until you can get the answer correct every time around. From there, set that set of 10 aside and grab your second set of 10. Go through the same procedure, one card at a time until you can get all 10. Now add those two 10s together for a stack of 20. Go through once, make sure you can get them all, before setting them to the side and attempting a new stack of 10. Once you've completed that stack, add it to the stack of 20, you now have 30 cards, run through them all. Continue this process until you can complete the entire stack of 50 without missing a question. By spacing it out in this manner, you are actually programming your brain to realize that this is information you want to remember. Your brain's going to remember things more when you come back to it repetitively, but it will also remember things better if you begin to slowly stagger out the amount of time between each repetition. You are then training your brain to remember it for longer and longer periods of time. Unless you're pressed for time, I would just do one stack of 50 per day. You don't want to overwhelm yourself too completely. Go through various stacks of 50 over the course of various days, returning to some that you've completed just to make sure you keep it in your memory. And continue that process until you are confident you know all the information on all of the flashcards. From there, don't ignore them, but you can begin to space out how many days in between each revisit, so long as you continue to nail those cards every time you go over them. Now for a bonus piece of information. There are various classroom courses where you will go through what's projected to be on the examination with an instructor and a group of other students. These classes can be very helpful. I went through one prior to my journeyman examination, and I went through the same course prior to my master's examination. A lot of students there were opening their code books for the very first time, and this was merely weeks before the examination. If you're going to take a class like this, I do not recommend that you wait until the classroom to open your books and begin studying. You want this examination course to be a refresher. You want to already be knowing most of the information that you will find here. If you have done your due diligence, if you have taken mock examinations online, created flashcards out of the questions you struggled with, studied those properties of water, studied your mathematic formulas, this course should be a refresher for you. If you attend these classes as a refresher and not as your first step in studying, then you will have a really good gauge to determine how strongly prepared you are for the examination. When you attend these classes, if you know most of the questions they're going over, if you know most of the information they're teaching you, and this is already just a refresher for you, you know that you are very well established and suited to take that examination. I hope this has been helpful to those of you who are on this journey. I wish you best of luck and success with your examination. Thank you for watching.